Can you tell by the examination of a bullet whether it has been fired by a clean gun or by a foul gun? Yes, sir. How can you tell that? With respect to lead bullets and black powder, you can tell that quite consistently, but you cannot always tell it with regard to smokeless powder. With lead bullets and black or semi-smokeless powders, the fouling of the barrel accumulates quite rapidly and leaves on the surface of the bullet marks, in addition to those present from the surface of the metal itself. Thus, the surface of the metal, in addition to carrying the fine scratches imparted to it by the barrel surface, has additional scratches running down the cylindrical portion, which are the rough paths, tiny accumulations of fouling which act as little islands inside the barrel and scrape out their own paths on the outside of each bullet, so that the fouler the barrel, the more marks on the bullet fired through the foul barrel. Is that right? Yes, sir. Is there a discernible difference between the fouling marks on a bullet and the marks made on a bullet by the rifling of the weapon? Yes, sir. The foul marks are temporary and the rifling marks are permanent. And you can determine that on the examination of the bullets? You can determine it only by the fact that over a series of shots, certain marks will be there permanently and others will disappear. And you know that those which disappear are due to temporary conditions. And that is the fouling or rust. Are the bullets of any given type, say a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson type, exactly the same when made by the different cartridge companies? No. A standard type, such as the one you mentioned, is made slightly different by each different manufacturing company, and each has a number of different characteristics which are peculiar to the product of that company, and they differ in those respects from the products of any other company. In what respects do they differ? In outline and curvature. By curvature, I mean the curve of the bullet on the nose may differ. The overall length may differ as well. These differences are slight but distinctive. They may differ in diameter by thousandths of an inch, but that would not make any difference, of course, in their final identification. They differ in weight by a few grains. The lowest weight for this size is 145 grains, and the highest 150 grains. The difference in the width of this cylindrical bearing surface above and below this groove, which is known as the cannelure or grease groove, may be seen in magnification. In that groove, the grease is packed around and serrated, and the grease is squeezed down when the bullet is fired, and that cuts down the amount of fouling. Without that grease, the fouling would accumulate much more rapidly than it does. Bullets fired from a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson gun, irrespective of the make of the bullet, are known as .38 caliber Smith & Wesson type? Yes, sir. There are different types of .38 caliber Smith & Wesson, and a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson type cartridge, so-called, can be fired not only through a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver, but through other makes as well. It is a standard commercial type adaptable to .38 Smith & Wesson and to other .38 caliber arms. I show you these bullets which are in evidence, and I ask you whether you have ever seen those bullets before. I have. Did you make an examination of them? I did. Will you explain to the court and jury your method of making this examination? First, I wanted to ascertain the make of the bullets and the type, so I weighed them and measured them. What did you weigh them on, and what did you measure them with? I measured them with a That's what is known as technical.
Yep.
What do you think?
Pretty good. You were with that girl today?
Yeah.
How's she doing?
Well, she's doing all right. I mean, she's only had about 3 or 4 lessons, so I'm trying to teach her the theory. But you know, the theory gets to be complicated because you tell them you write by sound, not by spelling, and then you get a word like shoe. You write by spelling. You write by sound, yeah, not spelling. So the spelling is powerful though for them. They always write S-H-O-E. That's show. So that's one thing. And then you tell them two is T-O. So they say, well, what does that got to do with the sound? Nothing. That's just an exception. And a couple other exceptions, I forget what they were, but so it's hard to get into. And then I started today. I told her the O when it's. I said the exception is when it's spelled with an O, you go by the spelling, double O. I said the difficulty is that you'd think that would be ool, like cool, except that's one of 13 pronunciations of O. Door, O. Hood, O. I went through a bunch of them that I could remember. So the student Silver, you said by sound, now suddenly it's this, and now it's the spelling, and it gets confusing. So anyway, you try to straighten them out. Mostly because learning the words, not the principle. But it's not easy to teach. So that stupid Phoenix theory has a 50-page preface all about you write by sound, not spelling, sound. Then they start in with their lesson on page 50, the keyboard, and they say, however, an exception, they got about 8 exceptions on the first lesson. They just spent 50 pages telling you to write by sound. A stupid theory book. Good.
Can you tell by the examination of a bullet whether it has been fired by a clean gun or by a foul gun? Answer, yes, sir. Question, how can you tell that? Answer, with respect to lead bullets and black powder, you can tell that quite consistently. Oh, jeez, but I forgot this.